If you need something special for dinner without breaking the bank and without spending hours in the kitchen, this easy, creamy chicken recipe is just the thing. Hi everyone, it's Maya from WholesomeYum.com, and I make easy, healthy recipes with 10 ingredients or less. So today we're making chicken marsala. This dish has juicy, tender chicken and a creamy, rich mushroom sauce made with marsala wine. Little backstory here, when my husband and I first met, he asked me what my favorite restaurant was. I was still in college, I couldn't afford anything fancy. I told him Olive Garden was my favorite. It's not my top favorite anymore, but I do still love it, and this chicken marsala recipe is inspired by my favorite dish there. This homemade version is perfect for date nights, and it tastes like it came from a restaurant. But it's also super easy. It takes just 25 minutes to make, all in one pan, so it's perfect as a weeknight dinner as well. Let me show you how easy it is. Let's do this. I have 2 large chicken breasts here. They're about 10 ounces each. You can also make this with smaller or larger ones, but 10 ounces is what I'm going with. And I'm going to cut these in half. This will help them cook more evenly. The easiest way to do this is to start with a thicker end and slice straight through. Try not to seesaw too much, as this can cause jagged edges. This knife could probably use a sharpening, but we'll make do. You can also open it up towards the end if that makes it a little easier. Next, I'm going to pat these dry with paper towels. This is going to help the outside get a nice sear, and it'll keep the inside more juicy. It also helps the seasoning stick better. Next, I'll season these with salt and pepper. I'm using a teaspoon of sea salt. This is a formula I learned years ago. I don't even remember where I heard it, but I learned that this was Julia Child's recommendation. Can't go wrong with her, right? So I've been using it ever since, and it works almost foolproof every time. That's a teaspoon of sea salt per pound of meat or poultry. In this case, we have 20 ounces of chicken, which is a little bit more than a pound, but since the sauce is salty, I reduced that just a little bit. And a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. You can adjust this to your liking if you want. This won't make it very spicy. If you like more heat, feel free to add more. You probably should have just added the salt and pepper on the same side at the same time instead of flipping a bunch of times. And if you get any clumps of salt or pepper like this, just spread them out, no big deal. Now we're ready to cook these, so preheat a large cast iron skillet over medium-high heat. We are going to add 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Make sure this heats up before you add the chicken. That's going to help prevent sticking. You'll know this is hot enough when you can tilt the pan and the oil glides around easily, and it'll also shimmer a bit. So now we can go ahead and add the chicken cutlets. I like to place them with the pretty side down first. Once you've got these in here, try not to move them around too much, otherwise they're not going to get that nice sear. We'll cook them for about 4 to 7 minutes per side. I like this cast iron because it distributes heat more evenly, so it's going to give us that nice sear. It'll also cook a little bit more quickly, but you can use a regular nonstick skillet if that's what you have. You'll do need it to be about 12 inches, otherwise the chicken is going to be too crowded, and you do want spaces between the chicken like this. This one is smaller, so it looks like it's ready to flip. Another way to tell is once they are ready to flip, they won't really stick anymore. In the beginning, they might stick. And if you find they're browning too much, where they won't cook through in the middle, then you can turn down the heat if you need to. If you're not sure whether these are done or not, you can use a meat thermometer to check. They should reach 165 degrees Fahrenheit. That one's good. Just transfer them to a plate once they're cooked through. Cover the chicken with a piece of foil to keep it warm. We'll be adding this to the pan later. Next, I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of butter to the pan. You don't need to clean it or anything. Those brown bits at the bottom are actually going to make the sauce more flavorful. And just let the butter melt. Depending on your pan and your stovetop, you might need this at medium heat or medium high. We're going to add the mushrooms shortly here, and we want the heat to be high enough, otherwise the liquid is not going to cook away. But with cast iron, sometimes it gets super hot. Mine is really hot right now, so I have it set to medium. Once that's melted, add 10 ounces of cremini mushrooms, or really any mushrooms you like. I buy the pre-sliced ones for convenience, but if you want them to be a little prettier than mine, you can slice them yourself as well. Arrange those in a single layer, as much as possible anyway. It's okay if they overlap a little bit. And we'll cook these for about 5 minutes until they're golden brown. Stir them occasionally, but you don't need to stir constantly. If you stir too often, they actually won't brown, so we do want them to be untouched for a little bit so that they brown nicely. This pan is so hot, I actually had to turn the heat down to low. But if you're using a nonstick pan, you'll definitely want to keep it at medium-high. With nonstick, I find that the mushrooms produce a lot of liquid and it's hard to get this nice browning. Once these are nice and browned and soft, we'll add 2 cloves of minced garlic. I actually use jarred garlic for convenience here. That's a teaspoon of minced garlic. But fresh will taste even better if you have the time. And sometimes I add it in the middle like this. That kind of helps it saute a little better. Or you can just stir it all together. Really, either works. The key here is that this is going to burn pretty quickly, so you only want to do this for about 30 seconds to a minute. Once you see it browning, you're going to add 3/4 cup of Marsala wine. I use Marsala cooking wine. It's less expensive than, the kind you drink, and it's still going to taste delicious. Once you add it, scrape the bottom with a wooden spoon or whatever you're using. This is going to release the brown bits at the bottom, which is going to add so much flavor. This process is called deglazing, if you haven't heard of it before. And bring this to a simmer, which mine is simmering already. Let that simmer for 3 to 5 minutes until the volume is reduced by about half. This is going to reduce the chances of the cream curdling when you add it later, and it'll also help the sauce be thicker. Plus, it means more concentrated flavor. Who doesn't want that, right? While this is simmering, I'm going to grab half a cup of chicken broth. I use low sodium so that this doesn't turn out too salty. And 1 tablespoon of arrowroot powder, or sometimes this is called arrowroot starch. This is going to help thicken the sauce. If you like, you can also use cornstarch if that fits your lifestyle. This is optional if a starch doesn't fit your lifestyle at all, but it does help thicken the sauce, so I do recommend it if possible. So just add that to the broth, and we'll whisk that together. That way it'll be ready by the time that our sauce has reduced here. So we'll add this mixture to the pan and add 1/4 cup of heavy cream. I don't recommend substituting this with any kind of milk, as the sauce will be much thinner. Heavy cream is really what you need, but if you need a dairy-free option, then coconut cream will work as well. Mix that together and simmer for just a few minutes. 3 or 4 minutes is usually good, until the sauce thickens to your liking. Sometimes if your pan is really hot like mine is right now, it thickens even faster. This is already pretty much almost thick. Once the sauce has thickened to your liking, you can go ahead and add the chicken back. So I like to coat the bottom first and kind of flip it. My sauce turned out a little bit darker and thicker here than it did in my pictures. Every time I make this, the color is a little different. Just depends on the temperature of your pan. Either way, it's going to be delicious though. And you can see if you need to cook this for a couple minutes to warm up the chicken if it's cooled by now. I like to pile some mushrooms on top. So this looks really good and creamy, but it's like all brown, so I like to add a little fresh parsley for color. This is totally optional. I am ready to try a plate of this. And a little extra sauce on top. Depending on how much your sauce thickened, if it's thicker than you like, you can add more cream to thin it out a little bit too. And a little more parsley just because. This chicken is so tender, it is like falling apart as I cut it. Good problem to have, right? Creamy mushroom sauce, tender chicken. This is one of my favorite easy dinners. You can serve chicken marsala with pasta, that's the classic choice, right? But I usually choose lighter options like spaghetti squash or zucchini noodles. And if you need a way to make them perfectly every time, watch my tutorial on zucchini noodles here.